So how do you buy a home without making it feel overwhelming or stressful from at the beginning to the end whenever you're a homeowner? And I say this because I've helped a couple clients and some people at the very beginning where we're doing the whole pre-qualification questions, just the general stuff. I've already helped them through the very end from getting the home purchase, but I've seen how they work the middle part of it at the end, and now that they've been homeowners for a while. But the things that I've noticed is it all starts from the very beginning with a few things. And so I do also want to acknowledge that buying a home is a big decision. It's going to be one of the biggest decisions you make as an adult, and it's going to be one of the biggest commitments. And again, not to sound dramatic, but just realistically and being honest, yes, buying a home, it is a lot of money. It's gonna be a long-term move, and it does change a lot of things about how you live. And when I see people talk about the negative things or not the best side of being a homeowner or buying a home, and I'm not just talking about the people that I've worked with or the people that I talk to, but I've also seen online how hear about those horror stories where people buy a house and then not even a year in, they already want to sell and they didn't like it. They didn't think what home ownership was, they thought in mind, and they want to go back to just renting. And if you really pay attention and if you really try to understand it, I don't think it was the home itself, but I think it was the decisions that they started, that they had and they made at the very beginning to then feeling those decisions later on. Because think about it, because they were used to renting, they were used to leasing, but because you rent, life feels simpler. If something breaks, you call someone, and if you want to move, you just wait for the lease to end. And if rent goes up, it's frustrating, it's annoying, but it's expected. But home ownership is different. It feels different. Now that's yours, both the good and the bad. And I think that shift can make it feel heavier for other people if you don't walk into it the right way. So today I want to talk about why buying a home can feel overwhelming and stressful for some people, and why others can walk into it and just transition smoothly. And one of the most important things is, and most of the time, is that the difference comes with a few early decisions. So one of the first mistakes I see is buying at the top of where you're approved. And let's start there. This is one of the biggest ones. Whenever you get approved, you're given a number, and that number tells you the maximum that they're willing to lend. And it doesn't mean that's what you should spend. But a lot of buyers treat it like it's a target, that's what they need to spend. And it's not. That number, like I said, is just the maximum that they're willing to spend. If you're pre-approved for 750, they shot for 750. And I get it. They want the nicest house that they can afford, but when it comes to buying right at the top, everything needs to go perfectly. Income needs to stay steady. No big surprises, no unexpected expenses. And that's going to be pretty hard to do because life is not like that. Car repairs happen. You never know when you're going to run over a nail, when the transmission is going to go out. Jobs change. You don't know if they're going to be doing some restructuring within the company, or anything that happens with job related stuff. Medical stuff can happen. Not to wish this on anyone, but you never know. Sometimes it just happens, and family stuff happens too. Some unexpected family events happen where you just don't know, and that's exactly how life works. You can't predict everything, so you don't know. And like I said, if you're buying at the very top, everything has to go right, and it's just not like that. And when you stretch it all the way to the very top, there's no room for anything else. So everything I just listed and I just said, it's going to be very, very hard to move forward with all that. And that's when people start usually feeling pressured, overwhelmed, or stressed. Now, I'm not saying never buy near your max, but if you do, just understand that's what that means. It means that months are going to be tighter with money. It means that you're gonna have less flexibility, less options. It means that you need to be very comfortable with your numbers when it comes to pushing it to that max limit. And the people who tell me later that they feel good about their purchase, most of them didn't push it to the very max. They didn't go to the very edge. They stayed somewhere where it left them room, and they had that wiggle room, that space, and that space makes a big difference in how ownership feels day to day. And let me give you an example. So let's say a buyer maxes out their approval, right? The payment is technically affordable, but it takes months. It takes their monthly breathing room. 6 months later, the AC goes out, it's about a couple $1,000s, right? More than a couple $1,000s. But now that's not just annoying, it's stressful. Now imagine buyer B, similar income, similar situation, but they buy a little bit below their max. Their payment is a little bit lower. They keep more savings. AC goes out, yes, still annoying, still expensive, but it doesn't shake their whole world. It doesn't rattle them. Same problem, very different experience. And the difference started before they even close on the home. So these early decisions do make a difference later. Second, using almost everything you have to close. This isn't really talked about enough, but a lot of buyers focus on getting the keys that they forget about what happens after. They focus on all their savings, everything they could gather, any gifts that they got from family for the down payment, the closing cost, moving in, and that was it. But what really matters is what your bank account looks like the day after you move in. And I say this because if you use everything just to close, just because you just wanted ownership really, really fast, then ownership's gonna feel heavy after that because every small thing feels bigger than it should after you become a homeowner. It's weird. It's you hear a weird sound in the house, it feels serious. You feel like something structurally is happening. You think the plumbing's rattling. It starts scaring you. The water heater leaks. It starts feeling urgent to you. Everything feels urgent. Everything's a priority. Not necessarily because it's, a catastrophe. It's bad. It's something extremely serious. But it's because you don't have that much room. Because if something goes wrong and you have to fix that, it's gonna affect everything. You might have a plumbing issue where it needs to get fixed. Toilets are clogged. There's a leakage. It's going something wrong, right? And you just don't have the extra cushion when you use it all at the very beginning. And there's to be honest, yes, things will break eventually. That's normal. The roof ages, appliances fail, stuff wears out. That's part of owning, and it's not a reason not to buy. It just means you should expect that this is what comes with you buying a home. When you go into knowing that and plan for it, feels manageable. You don't feel the stress. You're not worried. You're not overwhelmed. And third, here's another thing, not thinking a few years ahead. I'm not saying you have to forecast and predict everything, but just think a little bit ahead. This one's a little bit more subtle. A house shouldn't just match your life today, but it should make sense of what's going to happen ahead. If you know you're moving in 2 years, that matters. If you're early in your career and things change really fast, that matters. If you're planning to grow a family, that matters. Not everything needs to get perfectly mapped. Like I said earlier, you can't predict the future, but you should have some direction. When someone's buying without thinking ahead at all, and when it starts to feel, that's when it starts feeling like you're trapped later, just like all the other videos that you've seen where they said, I bought this house a year ago, I already want to sell it, I want to go back to not being a homeowner. That's when people feel stuck, and that's when they start saying that home ownership is stressful. And again, it's not so much the house, but it's the bigger picture. When the home fits your plans, even if life changes, usually you have options, and those options make a big difference. So again, all these decisions were laid out before you even became a homeowner, before you closed. And all these small early decisions make a difference. And let's talk about something honest, and let's talk about honesty and responsibility. So when you own, it's on you. If something breaks, you handle it. That's real. You don't call the landlord anymore. For people who've rented for years, that change feels very, very different at first. But again, I don't think the responsibility itself is a problem. The responsibility without preparation, without those early decisions, is when the numbers make sense, when you didn't stretch out that pre-approval, when you kept saving, when you thought ahead, all of that clears it all away. Ownership should not feel chaotic. It should feel normal. It should feel part of life. You can easily transition from renter to owner. And I think this is a part that I think a lot of people don't say out loud. But a lot of people are not scared of the house, of not scared of being a homeowner. They're scared about making a bad decision. They don't want to overpay. They don't want to regret it. They don't want to feel stuck. And I get it, you know. It is a big move, like I said from the very beginning. That's why I wanted to acknowledge it. And that's exactly why you should slow down, look at it properly. Don't buy emotionally, don't buy impulsively, just practical. And again, you don't have to do all this by yourself. You don't have to put this whole weight on you. You don't have to put all this on your plate. My role in all this is I'm here not to convince you that buying is the right move. Sometimes renting makes sense. Sometimes waiting makes sense. My job is to help you look at everything before you decide. Walk through the numbers honestly, let you know what the numbers mean, the good and the bad, to talk you through what could go wrong and how to handle it, and to make sure that you don't stretch yourself out too thin just to say that you bought a home. Because when you have the right setup, home ownership feels manageable. It feels good. It feels like the right fit. You easily can be from where you were before to now being the homeowner and just taking accountability for that and making that your responsibility. So again, if once you rush this, that's when it starts feeling heavy. That's when it starts feeling stressful, unmanageable. And most of the time that's avoidable if you have the right person and the right resources around you. So my final thoughts is buying a home is a big step and it should feel serious, but I don't think it should be overwhelming, stressful, or gloomy, just like other people have made it to be. When the numbers work, when you're not pushing yourself out too far, and when the house fits your life, it just feels like the right move. And if it doesn't feel right yet, then wait. There's no rush. That's it.